Back. Nate the Barbarian with you. Welcome back to Hot Mic. We should be streaming on YouTube and on Facebook and various channels. And I appreciate you for being here with us. Let me bring the screen down and then we can introduce today's crew. Oh, just me. Got to bring everybody in. Here we go. Hey, what's up, Raven? How you doing? Good to see you.
Good.
Always good to see you, Raven. And Kevin, the voice of reason, Aldridge. Always good to see you, sir.
Same here. Good to see you all. And Raven, just so you know, I'm gonna respond to your Facebook post about being mad if you cut your hair.
What I missed?
I'm gonna be in that group.
What I missed?
I made a Facebook post like either earlier today or yesterday, just like asking if people would be upset with me if I cut my hair. Cause it's such a thing. Like, even in my family, I have always been the kid with like the long, thick hair. And
Hmm.
I've cut it here and there. And I've gotten actually cussed out for it. Like, my friends are very protective of my particular head of hair, and so I've really been considering it lately. I'm not gonna lie. It's because of two things. Number one, this heat is insane in the city right now. It's hot. It's fish grease in the city right now,
Yeah.
and having such a an amount of natural hair, it's a pain to have to deal with it all the time. And I just want to cut it off and start over. Like, I really just want to like get a cute little pixie and go about my business. But
Hmm.
people similarly to Kevin won't be behind me on my short hair journey.
I mean, you see, you just talking about what? How short are you talking?
I'm talking like Jada Pinkett back in the day short. I want it
Wow.
gone. I want it gone.
You know what? Part of me, I just love that. I'm just gonna jump off the cliff and just cut it. I love that. Yeah, that's great. On the other hand, I'll be like, no, you should keep your hair. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
It's the general consensus. I think there is like a special relationship between like black women and hair that ain't really only just felt by black women. I feel like black women's hair is kind of like a cultural experience. Like, it's something that we all kind of have our attachments to. And I think just for me specifically in my life, I know that most of the people that I know and love definitely have an attachment to my hair. And so I just threw it out there to see what people would think. Most of the responses to my post were positive, but Kevin is clearly making it clear that he is not in that number.
I'm just having fun with you. Do you, Raven? Do what makes you happy,
Mm.
right? That's what you got to do. Because none of us ain't got to walk around being hot. If you hot, if that's the thing, hey, do you? I'm always in favor of people doing
Well,
what
you
makes
said
them
Jada
Absolutely.
happy.
Pinkett, so I'm looking up a picture. I'm gonna share a picture. Are you talking about like GI Jane Jada Pinkett? That all the way down,
No, 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 no. I'm not talking like a fade. I'm talking like pixie
bald.
cut, like, or maybe I should have not Jada Pinkett, like '90s Halle Berry, like
Oh, okay.
Halle Berry, Nia Long esque ish, like just a very short crop, like kind of what they call a pixie cut.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like GI Jane, like with the baldy, like this.
Oh, no, no,
What?
no. My head too big for that. My
Oh,
head way too big for that. She has
okay,
a big face but a small head. It works for her. I
okay,
have a big face and a big head. It will not look the same if I
all
cut
right,
it that short. I need something up here. I got
okay,
too much forehead.
okay. Self awareness. There it is. It's a beautiful thing. Because I was gonna ask, like, have you ever did this before? Because you want to get a test run. Because everybody don't have the kind of head and proportion to pull that off. You got
I've
to be a
cut it
little bitty
short.
person.
I've cut it to like here before, and I really liked it. If it was manageable, and like I felt like it gave me a more youthful look. But eventually, it just grew out, and it's now back to being what it is now, which is a giant Afro puff. But I have cut it short before, just not as short as I am thinking about going.
Hmm, okay. Well, to the audience, we appreciate you being here. Let me pull the chat up and welcome everybody in. Should populate. There it is. Pamela and Andrea and Terrace. What's up, Terrace? And Nat. What's up, Nat? Maurice, Kamikia, Pamela. Good to see everybody. Hey, please take a second to like and in particular share it. The shares mean everything. Share, share, share. I mean, if you like it, somebody else might like it. And then that's how we can grow this thing on Facebook and primarily on Facebook. For folks on YouTube, I'm not sure where you might share. Maybe you're sharing it back on Facebook or you're sharing it on Twitter or something like that. Now X. I appreciate you. Let's get into it. Well, have you heard about this backlash about this new Superman movie? You guys heard about this? Movie,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to miss.
yeah, the movie is based off DC Comics. I grew up reading Marvel comics primarily, but you couldn't get away from Superman. He was everybody's favorite at some point before you got woke and realized what the hell it was going on with that subliminal messaging as the white man always saving the universe. But you don't learn that till you get older. So I'm going back like back when you were a kid. Like Superman was fun. And when I saw the trailers for this new movie, I thought, man, this looks good. I mean, just as a superhero movie, it didn't look bad. It looked real good. Actually, I don't know if I'll pay to see it. I'll probably wait to come on a streaming service at this point, but I thought people might really like that. And then the controversy, the politics got involved. And people involved with the movie said that Superman, you should kind of look at him like he's an immigrant, which I thought that's my kind of person right there. Never miss a moment. Hey, never miss a moment. That's how right then and there, at that moment where they're trying to sell the movie, just as it's being released, uh, one of the creators makes a makes a very highly charged political statement saying Superman is an immigrant. And not surprisingly, people was like, immigrant, this movie is woke. I'm not going to see it. People are saying that the movie has been ruined now, that the image of Superman as something fun is now being politicized. Like, what in the heck is going on here, guys? Like, what are we looking at?
Imagine hating somebody solely because of where they come from so much that you can't even go and watch a movie about a comic book hero, about an actual literal alien that is not even from this, let alone the country. He's not from this planet. Like, that's the entire premise of Superman. He is from planet Krypton. I For me, I come at this from multiple angles because one, I am a comic book nerd slightly. Like I grew a love for comic books by watching the Marvel movies. So I kind of did it in reverse. And so I started with the movies, then I got interested into the comics because of the movies because I wanted to understand where the DC universe was going and where the MCU was going. So I kind of worked backwards in that way. And I've learned a lot about how comics books have even come together and all the lore and stuff. In most of these comics, say, give or take a few, they're all about people who are using their supposed superpowers that are kind of sort of connected to the adversity that they experience. Typically every superhero hero that you come across is either an immigrant, they are from a specific group of a marginalized people, or just something about them that causes them to have to live a life of great adversity, whether that be because they're an alien from a different planet or because their superpowers themselves, like the X-Men, alienate them from society and they have to navigate that. Like, this is a core theme of any comic book character, is that I am different and my differences are what make me both special and also sometimes hated. That's kind of the point. And so it shocked it, not that it shocked me, but it baffles me, I guess is a better word to use, when see people like react so strongly to something like this. You are now mixing your hatred with your ignorance in order to produce a take on something that is just completely unnecessary. You feel how you feel about immigrants in America, and that's steeped in how you feel about the current American politics. But if you have ever been any kind of fan of Superman, period, you knew he was an immigrant already. You kind of already knew that. You knew that he was an alien. You knew that he didn't come from here. You knew that he immigrated and kind of built his own version with, the Kents of the American dream. And he's done the same thing that a lot of people who are threatening to boycott this movie claim that they hate. That you came here illegally, you didn't go through the quote unquote proper channels, and although you've basically risked life and limb to make my life better in this country, I'm still upset because you didn't do it the right way. I'm not gonna mention the fact that I literally benefit from you being here. I'm not gonna mention that. All I'm gonna look at this as is like, this is just some woke bull crap that the liberals and the Democrats have put together and forced in our faces because they're trying to make a point. The point was already made about 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. The point has been made. you're just picking up on it because you're now hypersensitive to the fact of what's going on currently in the country, which is there's been a crackdown, a nationwide crackdown by this current administration on immigration, and it's making you debate whether or not you contain a certain level of humanity when you're looking at these people, or if you are okay with separating your humanity from the issue at hand in order to serve your own personal interests. And that's
What?
what we're seeing happen with this movie.
Uh,
You are having a hard time separating your personal interests from what has always been in front of your face. He's never
100%.
not been an alien.
100%. Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
What do you think about the fact, and also Kevin as well? Well, go ahead, Kevin. I'll let you get your thoughts in, then I'll ask the question.
no, I was just gonna say I think this is the stupidest debate of all time. I mean, first of all, you're talking about a fictional character, right? Like, hey, I'm a comic book person too. I grew up on comic books, Batman, Superman, Marvel, DC. I did it all. So I'm a
What was your
geek. I saw
favorite?
the Superman movie too. I saw the Superman movie Tuesday. I had some advance tickets. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. May not be
Oh, hold on,
everybody's
hold on, hold on.
jam, but I had a
You
good
had
time.
advanced tickets. That's two. I don't remember getting no text message or nothing. I like movies.
Well, I had to take my brother
Oh,
with
okay.
me. My
brother
brother is
brother
my
trumps. I
homie.
understand.
He's the
Family
one.
trumps
So
everything.
like,
I
you know,
understand.
we
Kevin, you
do that.
almost made that
We do
question
this
y'all
here.
friendship just
Yeah,
then.
I'm like, damn, I ain't getting no text message or nothing. I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead. How was it?
Well, but I just think it was great. Like I said, for me, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was like a comic book literally taken to the movie screen. I mean, it's different than what Zack Snyder tried to do to try to make it gritty and more real world. This felt like a comic book movie, literally the way that they did it, and it was fun. I
It
enjoyed
looked
it.
fun.
Again, it's not going to be everybody's jam, everybody's flavor. I get that. That's art. But I just think this whole taking things from the realm of science fiction and fantasy and fictional stuff, and look, we got real world issues that people need to be talking about, not arguing over whether Superman is an immigrant or whatever. And I kind of feel like, movies have always made political statements. It's like we're living in this day where people are acting like Hollywood sending a message is something new, man. Ever since, Sidney Poitier, guess who's coming to dinner? I mean, you go back, movies have always been about challenging the modern culture and ideas and bringing forth political ideas. It's not anything new. What's new is this media ecosystem and political environment that wants to politicize everything because it wants to keep people angry, stirred up, and at each other's throat.
But
It's
I
a
don't think that's what
movie.
is.
Go enjoy the
I hear
movie.
you, bro.
Go enjoy the movie.
I
Take your
hear you, bro,
kids.
but mm-mm. I'm happy that James Gunn, that's the director. It took a lot of chutzpah. It took a lot of stones. He must have a very big bank account and he feels very secure for him to make that kind of statement right before the movie is about to drop because, it's a statement that needed to be made. Back to what Ray said, like,
Yeah,
hey, you got all these red state, these Trump voters, and they're so anti-immigrant, but they love Superman. And Superman's an immigrant. They need to be reminded of that. They're like, yeah, you've been celebrating,
yeah, but James Gunn ain't the first one. That's what I'm saying. James Gunn is not the first one to do
but I'm
that,
just saying,
bro. I mean, and
but his
if you know
motives
James
though.
Gunn is
I
not,
don't think his motives
yeah, but
was to. I think his motives was to make people think, like, oh snap, he's right. Superman is an immigrant. I don't think he was trying to be divisive though.
no, I think he was trying to tell a story. I mean, and I follow a lot of this stuff and read a lot of the interviews. I mean, and there are like a lot of subtle messages that James Gunn, slips into movies about a lot of things. I mean, social media plays a role in the movie. I mean, there are a lot of undertones there. But I guess what I'm saying is that's nothing new. I mean, the fact that he talks about it, yeah, kudos to him. But I think that's what art has always done. Art has always put in our face the culture and challenged us and put us there, whether you're talking about paintings or whether you're talking about movies or whether you're talking about books. Like, that's what art does. And I think the fact that there's this sort of new age push against woke, like all of a sudden, like Hollywood is woke and movies are woke. They've always been that way, right? I mean, this is not anything new. So the fake outrage that people are trying to generate, I'm not talking about Gunn, I'm talking about the critics, the Fox Newses, the pundits that come on that are trying to make this thing a deal, they're doing it because they want to keep us divided. And I listen to a lot of online fan base talk about these movies, and people are eating it up. It even goes to the standpoint of now where people get upset, when they quote unquote gender or race swap characters, right? So the Fantastic Four
Yep,
movie
I was
that's
just getting
coming
ready
up,
to say that.
Silver
Yeah.
Surfer is a male character. They made the Silver
I
Surfer
saw
a
that. I
female
thought it was
character
dope.
for this upcoming movie, and people lost their minds,
Why?
man. They lost their minds, and I'm sitting here thinking like, these are fictional characters. Creators can make them whatever they want to.
It's
And I
that.
mean, people just get caught up in it. It's not
It's that.
real. It's art. It's
Yeah, but it's
adaptive.
important though.
That's the part that just gets
No,
under
I
my
feel what
skin.
you're saying. I think it's all valid. I would just underscore just how important these kind of like relationships with these longtime characters can be. You probably got people 40, 50, 60 years old that's been into comic books and invested a lot of time. But for me, when I saw that, I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like, female. And then when I realized, I thought it was dope. I'm like, oh, they switched it up. But that's how I think. I'm not so caught up with it. I'll give you another example because some people really are. So I just observed, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I just feel like there is a portion of the population that spends a lot of time sitting around thinking about and looking at what black people are doing and hating on us. And I'll tell you why. Because over the last maybe month or so, I've seen this primarily on Facebook. There's been this meme or series of memes with a similar theme, and it's promoting that there's a new Black Panther movie coming out, but the new Black Panther is going to be portrayed by a white guy, Ryan
Yeah,
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
So
Yep.
I look at the comics, and these people are like, "Yeah, you take it. How you think about that?" And I'm like, "We don't care. You can't take
Right.
we don't care what color the next Black Panther is. So what? It might be dope. Y'all are caught up with that. If it's a dope movie and it
Yeah.
makes sense, we'll get into it. You can't take Black Panther from us, boo.
But here's the thing with that, Nathan. Those people who say that, how you like that, they fail to see that white society has co-opted black culture throughout history. Like, you taking black stuff and making it white ain't
Yeah.
nothing new to us. We're
But
used
That's
to
your
we're
that's your
used to
standard
having
mode of
we're used to
operation.
having
We've
our
seen you do it a million times
intellectual.
hey,
before. You
look,
do that's what you
Yeah,
do. Because we're
excellent
gonna be
point.
honest, we're
yeah,
gonna be
we're
honest,
used to
most
having our.
of current and past culture, art, music, history has been exactly that. You saw some black folks do it. You was like, oh, I like that, but I don't like that they black doing it. So I'm gonna put some white people, I'm gonna teach them how to do it, and then we're gonna sell it back to our own. You've done it for centuries.
Absolutely. And that's the hypocrisy, that when you have to put it in front of the white people who say that, like, they don't see it. They don't want to accept it when you put it in their face because they know the truth behind it. So you're right. That's why we ain't tripping on it, because it ain't nothing new. We used to having our intellectual property stolen and co-opted by the other
Hey,
side.
truth
But
be told,
but when it flips the other way, it's woke, or it's some kind of pandering to DEI or something like that. Like, hey, look, the white Black Panther thing, that's something. Again, I read the comic books. That's a new
yeah,
storyline that they're introducing in the
yeah,
comic books, just as a lot of the things that people are seeing in these movies is generated out of the comic books. There's so many different alternative universes and things that they do in the comic books, but it's like somehow when it goes to the movies, people don't want to accept that, and that's because they fall for this. They drink this dumb Kool-Aid that people who want to keep us divided, angry, and mad serve up to them about something's being stolen from them because you introduce a black
right.
Spider-Man named Miles Morales, a black and Hispanic Spider-Man named Miles Morales. They can't adjust to that. And it's just as good a character. That don't take nothing away from Peter Parker. I
Right.
still like the original
Right,
Spider-Man.
but I
But
learned that everybody don't think like that. Like there's some people I can read in the comments on these particular posts, and I'm just amazed. I'm laughing at them like, y'all think that we care about this? This is what you think we care about? We could care less. And truth be told, part of the big fanfare, whether we admitted it or not, that we had for the first Black Panther is that they didn't make it a white guy from the beginning, because that's what they normally do. So we was just happy y'all was being authentic. So if y'all want to reclaim him and whatever, go right ahead. Let's just make it dope and make it fun. That's all Marvel fans really care about. We're not really caught. To me, I think it's fun when they diversify it because you can tell the same story of the character from a slightly different angle. To me, that's different. I get tired of hearing and seeing the same old story over and over again. But I guess some people need that. They need to be reinforced, and I get it. I want to be reinforced. That's why we like Black Panther. So thank you.
Where's the joy and excitement in seeing the same thing over and over again? I mean, like, how many different ways can you tell the same Superman origin story or Batman? I mean, they done made this so. I respect and appreciate a fresh approach and perspective. I don't want you to give me the same old thing. I don't want you to give me on the movie screen a reenactment of a comic book that I've already read. Give me something new and fresh that I haven't seen. And I just don't understand these people who just want you to retread the same thing over and over again because they just want to be comfortable with their same old whatever that they've had. I kind of liken it to sometimes people in the church who will let you know as a pastor, don't mess with my Jesus. Like, you can't possibly introduce to them any new ideas to expand the possibilities of what God and Jesus can be, because they got these long-standing ideas of what it is. And if you try to introduce something that don't jive with that, they'll try to run you out. And so I appreciate freshness, new perspectives, things that open up my mind to new things. But you're right, Nathan. Everybody don't think
I
like
think that too, like what we're seeing happen is a cross between just a general lack of creativity. A lot of people are consuming art with these days. A lot of people who consume this art lack a general sense of creativity, and so for them, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the capacity to intake a piece of art that is an exact copy or an exact duplicate of what they've already come to know and love about it. And I learned that, like I said, from getting into Marvel movies and then getting into the comic books and finding out that there were different universes and stuff for different characters and different timelines and all this. Like, comic books are a lot more, they're not linear, they kind of spread out and go different directions like a spider web. And so when you have an understanding of that, it don't make it as hard for you to come, you know, to the conclusion that, oh, okay, so they're taking a little bit from this universe and mixing it together with this universe to kind of give us this form of creativity. It makes more sense when you, number one, have a creative brain, but also number two, you know what you talk about. There's a lot of people who watch these movies who don't even read the comics and don't know what they talking about, but because again, you have such strong political views that you're willing to inject those political views into a comic book that you know nothing about. And that's what's getting people hung up, I think. It's a lot of people who don't read these comics who and I don't blame you because you don't have to. That's one of the another beautiful thing about the DCU or the MCU. You don't have to read the comics to enjoy the movie, because actually you should probably enjoy the movies more if you don't read the comics, in my opinion, because you have no basis for it. Like, you have no invested, time or interest in how they portray it on screen, because it's a completely new concept to you. And so for you to have such strong convictions about something that you're not even fully invested in is insane to me. But of course, we live in 2025 under the current administration that we live under, which is, if I can't see myself in the art that I consume, it's woke, it's DI, it's anti-white, it's anti-man, it's anti-straight male, and it's gonna get called woke and written and written off. And I also just want to add, before I end this, I also just want to add that I think it's hilarious that whenever we black people as a community decide to boycott something, oh, boycotting doesn't work. That's y'all boycotting isn't a useful strategy. It's not effective. You'll be right back in the stores in a few months. Nobody cares if you're boycotting, but as soon as they get pissed off about something, soon as they have an issue with something, oh, we're gonna boycott. I am never. Didn't they get mad at, like, a, what was it, Miller Lite or Corona or whichever beer company it was? They had like a trans ambassador like a couple years ago, and people lost it and was like, we're gonna boycott. Well, I'll never buy this beer again. Them folks ain't run out of business. You know who did go out of business, or is about to, at least looking like Target? Target is losing billions of dollars right now, currently, because
yeah.
we decided to boycott. Because we don't just boycott for no reason. We don't just boycott because our feelings are hurt. We boycott for actual issues that affect us. But
And Raven, that's a great point because I was just thinking that exact same thing. It's like when they talk about boycotting, we boycott against
Yes.
injustice, unfairness, inequality, discrimination. Those are the types of things that we boycott against, where we march in the streets, where we withhold our dollars economically. Like you said, they boycott when they get their feelings
Mhm.
hurt, or they actually boycott against the things that actually do improve equality, eliminate discrimination. Because again, I've said this, when you're used to having the whole sandbox, when you now have to give up a portion of that sandbox so other people can get in, you feel violated, right? And that's how a lot of white Americans, not all, but how some white Americans feel about the progress of different groups in this country, because that's what it is. They're used to a landscape where they're on everything. So it's not, they're so blind to it that they don't even think about it. Like every newspaper that I've ever worked at, when I've come in and I've had an opportunity to lead coverage or do anything like that, it's always night and day in terms of the coverage between how, and I'm not just talking about black community, I'm talking about any community that has not received coverage. And in every instance, I've received backlash, mostly from white readers, about what are you trying to do? What is this? Whether it's affirmative action, DEI, or whatever, there's always pushback from white readers about what are you trying to prove? Why are you doing it? They never ask themselves the question. Well, the one question they ask me is like, why is all this black stuff or Hispanic stuff or stuff showing up in the paper all of a sudden? They never ask themselves the question why it wasn't there in the first place, right? They see what they think is an encroachment. They see it, they know something's different, and they want to know why it's in there, but they never bother to challenge themselves or ask themselves the question, well, like, why weren't you seeing this before I got there, right? Do you think these communities are just not worth covering? And in an honest moment, they would probably tell you, yeah, because they're probably not that much interested in really anything you got to say or anything that's going on. But the expectation is we have to consume what they feel like is important. And so this is the challenge that you have in this country in terms of just the blindness, the blind spots that the majority community has to how good they have it, how good they've always had it, and how everybody else has had to deal with not being represented, right? Representation isn't a big deal to you when you see it all the time, right? If I'm around black people all the time, I don't think, and that's all I do, I don't think about not seeing black people. But when black people are few and far between, and I don't never see us, or I'm not in the midst of us, I'm looking around like, hey, where's somebody who look like me? I mean, I can swim in the ocean of white. I've done it, for 30 years in my career, I've done it. But daggone it, I like to look over in the cubicle next to me every now and again and see a brother or sister that I can go to lunch with and, share some common
But what's
experience.
funnier about that is you can be that one dot of color in an ocean of white, and they'll be more uncomfortable with you being there than than you being uncomfortable with being the only one being there. I've experienced it a number of times. Before working in radio, especially, I worked in a lot of different workplaces where I might have been one, maybe two or three of the only person of color in the entire office, and they're more uncomfortable about me being there than I am about being the only white person or the only person of color in that space. And that to me speaks volumes. And also lets me know that it's not that they're not aware. I understand the point that you're making about the blind spots, but I don't know if I can honestly call it a blind spot. They're very aware of the dominance of their desire to see themselves everywhere. They're very aware of it because, again, in those spaces where it's only one or two of us, they are still more prone to be more uncomfortable about us being there than we are being the only one of us there. And the reason why they feel so uncomfortable when they see stuff like this, or stuff like this happens in movies or TV shows where they do a race swap, or maybe even a gender swap or something like that, they feel so like it gives them such a visceral response, because to them it feels like I like it's kind of like looking in a mirror and the reflection becoming more like almost unrecognizable. I'm so used to seeing just me in the mirror that if I look at the mirror and I'm starting to see things about me change or look off or look different, I am hyper aware. Imagine you go to the bathroom right now, you look in the mirror and something about your face just seemed off. Like you still mostly look
Mhm.
like you, but it's just something that's happening here that just don't. I don't remember seeing this here before, or I never noticed that that was there before. Maybe I need to go to the doctor and have this looked at, or maybe I need to just do more to get back to what I remember my face looking like. You still look mostly like you, but something is just slightly off. It's unsettling, and so I don't know if I can agree that it's a blind spot, but I do think that it's something that they're just so used to seeing and perceiving themselves everywhere and everything that even the slight bit of offness truly disturbs them. And that's really sad, because when I was in school, I was taught that America was a melting pot, that the entire point of it was diversity. And then to become an adult and go out into the world and realize, why did you ever say that to me if that's not what the world reflects, if that's not what my country reflects? Why was that even taught to me if that is not, if when you look in the mirror you don't see diversity, you just see yourself? Why you would even waste your time teaching me that then?
Well, because I think diversity is a lot like love. It depends on what your definition is. And I think when they say that, America likes to have diverse people, like different hues, different skin colors, people from different backgrounds. But what they really want is homogeneity within that diversity, right? So you can be black, but as long as you assimilate into the culture and you accept the culture and you're exactly like the culture, then I don't have a problem with you. But when diversity in its truest sense shows up, that says, hey, I'm going to live in my difference, right? People have a challenge with that because difference makes you uncomfortable, particularly if you're not familiar with, like, none of us likes to be in a situation where we're unfamiliar, where we feel like we don't know, where we feel like, oh, I don't know what to say in that situation like that. Just that general discomfort is unnerving for all of us when we find ourselves in those situations. But most of the time, you sort of learn how to push through it. You ask questions, you try to understand, okay, I'm not familiar with this dance, so I'm gonna try to get in line, even if I look like a fool, and get it, and or ask somebody like, hey, what does this mean? I'm gonna try to ingratiate myself into whatever's going on. I think a lot of normal people try to do that to help them get over the discomfort. Some people shrink from it, right? They go stand in the corner, they get an attitude, they kind of not have a good time. And so, in this country, I think the general overarching theme, because it was founded and built and made for white men, like that is the dominant culture in this country. I mean, even women have to adapt to it. And I'll give you an example of one of the things that I won't necessarily say I've been challenged by, but it's something I'm aware of and I notice. So as LGBTQ persons have gotten more rights, coming out, feeling more free to be who they are in society, and there's greater representation that comes along with that. So you can't very well cut on anything on TV today and not see LGBTQ
That you
representation,
know about,
right? Yeah, yeah,
because it's one of those
right.
special minorities that you can't. People assume they can, but you can't always see it when it's in front of you. And so,
Yeah, well, I just mean simply by how the
yeah,
characters
yeah,
are
yeah,
portrayed. So,
yeah,
right, there are a lot more openly gay
yeah.
characters in TV shows today. Like you literally can't watch any kind of sitcom, drama, show, movie, and there not be LGBTQ characters that are prominent, right? That's all about that community now starting to get more and different types of representation than they used to, and it's hard not to notice it, right? It's because it's in your face, so to speak. People with a certain mindset who have an issue with that, they're not going to be able to handle that, and it's going to look a certain way, like you are pushing this on me. Like if you think like what the people and the critics of the Superman movie say, I don't like to be preached to. I don't want you shoving this stuff down my throat. And for people who have that feeling, more representation feels like that to them. It feels like you're preaching it to them. It feels like you're shoving it down their throat. Instead of it feels like, hey, we were excluding these people for generations, and now they finally getting in. So it's not about shoving it down your throat. It's about people finally getting an opportunity to be represented and have an opportunity. But that's the different perspectives that you get. For the minority groups who've been shut out, it's opportunity. For the people who are noticing the stuff showing up, it's like, man, they're shoving this, they're just shoving this down my throat, pushing it in my face. And it's noticeable. It is noticeable.
Yeah, I would agree as well. And I it's something that I think we've had this conversation before, and I've talked about it when I used to work at the radio station too. For me, I feel like that anytime a TV show or a movie has a sex scene in it, I just don't want to see that. Like I don't care what the context is. I don't care what. Case in point, the show P Valley. You know what that show is. It's a show about a bunch of strippers in a strip club doing stripper stuff. But like it's entertaining, but I'm still gonna fast forward past all the sex scenes because I don't want to see that. And now I'm gonna miss about half the episode when I do that. But I don't like it. It's just something that I have a sensitivity to because I grew up in a household that wasn't very sexual at all. Like there was, so I'm used to a certain level of, I guess, modesty. I guess if that's the word that we're gonna use. Like I'm just used in my daily life to a certain level of modesty, to a certain level of if hyper is more, hypo is less. I guess I'm used to an environment that was hyposexual, that lacked a certain element of sexuality in it. And so when I go out into the world and I am viewing movies and TV shows, I prefer to do it on streaming because to me, for somebody who has that hypersensitivity to it, I feel like I can't watch a movie or a TV show that ain't got a million gratuitous sex scenes in it. And so I do honestly most of the time prefer streaming because I can fast forward past it. And so I get exactly what you mean when you say that, well, to somebody who ain't really used to that or don't really care for it, it does feel like it's being shoved in your face. But if you have a conversation with somebody who's used to who's kind of used to that what I consider hypersexuality in media, they looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, girl, what's wrong with you? Like, do you have some kind of sexual trauma that you need to work through? Because sex is normal, sex is regular, and I don't agree with that. I don't disagree with the fact that sex is normal and regular, or whatever the case may be. I just don't want to see it because it makes me uncomfortable. And so it is it's a push and pull. It's kind of a tug between the two.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I mean, because look, let's just be honest. There are a lot of people out there who are not comfortable with watching two men or two women kissing on screen, right? Like that is regardless. I mean, a lot of people look at it kind of like what you say with the sex scene. It's like that's just not something that some people will say that they want to see. And if that is on a show that has been a favorite of yours that you like to watch and that's introduced, that's a difficult one for some people to swallow but I always think like I don't know. I've never asked anybody LGBTQ person this question, but I often wonder like what have they thought all these years about watching heterosexual people making out and kissing, or like are they turned off by it? I don't know. I mean, it's not a conversation I've had with anybody. It's a question that I've wondered, but it's like, again, it's kind of like the black people learning how to live in white society because we've had to. I mean, maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same
way. I'm sure. Again, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm sure it's a very similar to the black experience where they're less concerned about heterosexuals kissing and more concerned about the lack of representation of who they are. Just like we did. We wanted to see us. We was less concerned about what y'all was doing. We just want to see more of us. So I think it might be something like that. But listen, I want to switch gears here, and this is not on the list, but I suspect that perhaps you both have heard about it. And this goes back a couple of days, but it is what it is. But the Essence Music Festival took a lot of heat. Everybody knows, and Raven brought this up earlier about the successful boycott against Target. Why? Because of their anti DEI initiatives. They bent the knee to what Trump wanted almost. This was one of the first companies to do so, it felt like anyway. Um, and so everybody knows, most people know about the Essence Music Festival. It's sort of like ground zero for Black culture once a year in Louisiana. If you haven't been there, I suspect that a lot of Black people, perhaps if it maybe thought about going to it, I've thought about going to it. Seems like a lot of fun, a lot of fellowship and Black businesses and connecting with people all over and a whole bunch of great performances. But here's the issue is that in the midst of what's going on with the Trump administration and their anti-DEI efforts and our boycott against Target, the Essence Festival took them on as a sponsor. And so a lot of people were very disappointed. Some people said they were going to boycott it moving forward. And I thought, man, that's a real tough spot to be in. Here you are, you're trying to keep the lights on. I'm sure they've been making projections many years out. They probably got people on a payroll and responsibilities here or there. And then it's just a thing that you want to keep going, right? And it costs money. But on the other hand, Target is trying to give you money. And
And they're not doing it just because it's out of the kindness of their
no,
heart. This
they
is a
know what
deliberate move.
they
Yeah.
understand the rock and the hard place that festivals, and this is not just Essence Festival. There's a lot of these cultural sort of festivals, even inside the LGBTQ community here in Cincinnati. They struggled at first to get funding. I think they did initially get some corporate funding, but people were stepping back because they was following what Trump told them to do. But what do you think about this? I mean, should Target have taken the money? Are people wrong to boycott? Like if you're Essence Festival, what's the right thing to do in this situation? If you're running things,
I kind of want to add also another element that's being discussed around this as well, because I've seen this cross my timeline a number of times, just because that's the kind of stuff that I keep up with. Oh, naturally, I have not shopped at Target or Walmart since maybe November of last year. And that was right before everything went on. But like in January, kind of solidified it for me. Walmart or Target will never see another dime from me. Maybe for the rest of my life. But it's something. So because of that, and because I do, when I say I'm boycotting something, I mean it. When I say it, it ain't just something that I put on the internet because that's the trend at the moment. If I say that you're not getting a dime out of me, another black dollar out of me, I mean that. And I've been standing on business with Target ever since. And so it is something that has crossed my timeline quite a bit. And within that conversation has also been the conversation of the fact that the creators of Essence Fest and those who are in charge of putting it together, I don't know if they've been the same for the last few years or just this year, but what's attached to this conversation is that those persons are like of African descent. And we don't have this conversation a lot, but there is a conversation that happens here and there about the difference between being African American and being black of African descent in America. And I think that that's also like a perspective that people are having this conversation with. People, a lot of what I've seen is a lot of people saying that, well, the creators and the people who put Essence Fest together, these are not African Americans. These are people who are, they're part of the diaspora, but they don't have the a lot of people look at Essence Fest as something that belongs to African Americans, not necessarily those who are children of first or second generation African immigrants, which kind of goes back to the current administration that we're in, because whether we want to believe it or not, immigration is a hot button topic to have in a black household these days. It's part of the whole thing. And I think that people are kind of engaging in what Nat just referred to as a diaspora war when it comes to this. How do you are you a perspective that I've seen
how
kind
dumb
of
is Black people?
prevail? Yeah,
How
but a
how
perspective that I've seen prevail is the whole idea of a diaspora war, which is
how
I don't really expect
dumb?
anything different, because these people aren't African Americans. They are, children of African immigrants. They don't have
Yeah,
the
no.
same ties or the same roots to our cultural events or the things that we celebrate as African Americans, or that we take ownership as African Americans. This Essence of Fest has I've never. I've never heard of Essence Fest being for the entire diaspora. It has always kind of been something special to Black
I
Americans, and
always thought it was
so
for everybody, all black folks.
it's just one
I
of those
stand
things that
too.
I don't think I ever really like thought about. I think I personally, I can just speak for myself. Personally, it kind of was an assumption that Essence Fest was homegrown Black culture, Black African American culture,
It,
and to find out that the creators or the people who are in charge of putting it together are, you know, children or of African immigrants, and so they kind of have that kind of shift in
hey,
identity or where they come from with it.
you know what that is? It's jealousy because they made a move and got themselves into a position where they could make some money off Essence Fest, and these other people didn't. I mean, how dumb are we? We don't have no hope. I keep telling people this, I'm gonna say it again. We have absolutely, I'm talking about black people. We have no people of color in this country. We have no hope against the forces against us at all. Because these plumb dumb, smart, dumb people sitting around talking about African American or Jamaican, you fool, it's called divide and conquer. None of that matters. None
Yeah,
of that matters. But you got influencers like Umar. I would have roasted Umar like a marshmallow if I was there. It would have been, the police would have been called. I would have cussed that man out to his face. Coming into Cincinnati telling people not to vote, I'm not going to sit in the audience and be silent. You're going to have to silence me. These fools are falling right into the plot. They got us running around talking about where were you born? And I'm African American, I'm Jamaican American. To our enemy, it's all the same, fool. They don't make no distinction. They are winning. I refuse to participate in the so-called diaspora wars because I know who funded it. Donald
Yeah.
Trump's friends funded that. And
yeah,
these fools sitting around talking about tethers and you're not really African American. But to the enemy, the real enemy of us, it's all the same, buddy. It's
but
all the same.
you
And
know
we
what,
wasting
Nathan?
time running around arguing about stuff that is irrelevant. It
I
don't matter. When
yeah,
when when the things start to going and it's the fan, it's gonna come down just like it do in prison. What do they do? What happens when there's a riot in prison? It breaks down on what lines? That's exactly what's gonna happen when that happens out here. And so all this division is nothing more than divide. It's Jim Crow divide and conquer.
yeah,
We already defeated. It's a damn shame. I'm
I
ashamed
agree.
of us.
Hey, I agree with you in large point about what you're saying, Nathan. But here's where I kind of agree with what Raven is saying is what makes that a challenge. Like it's difficult to get on the same page together. And I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you a perfect example of what we're talking about. I don't disagree with you that we shouldn't be arguing over these different things, but perspective matters. It's the same conversation that we have with Terrace when he's on here. Terrace is a black man. I respect Terrace as a black man, but Terrace is working for the enemy. Okay, so Terrace is one of those brothers who just sees things differently than a lot of other black people. And it's hard to come together around that when somebody don't see themselves like you. And I think that's
And
what's
that
at
is
the
what's being
crux.
discussed in these conversations that cross my
Yeah,
But
timeline. You
that's their
don't view
problem.
yourself as a Black American, like as an African American from of the ancestry of enslaved people. If you don't view yourself like that, it's sometimes hard, and this is just from having conversations. It's sometimes hard to even express where my issues or what this country as a whole come from, because I am the ancestors of the enslaved in this country on these grounds. It's a slightly different perspective,
It don't
and
matter though, Raven.
it
It is
but
a different perspective, but
it
in the
shouldn't
long
matter.
run,
It
it don't
shouldn't
matter.
matter.
yeah,
But it does. It shouldn't matter,
It
but it
doesn't.
does.
No, it doesn't. We are making it matter by holding on to these tiny distinctions. I'm the enslaved, I'm the
but it's
ancestor
not
of
just
enslaved people. You're
it's
right.
not
You're
it's
right,
not
but
just
that's
the
not at
distinction
stake
though,
with an
Nathan.
alliance.
It's
That's
not
what
just
people
the,
don't understand and what they got to be taught. It's not that you don't have a uniqueness. It's not that you shouldn't be respected. It's just that a lot of people do. And I can respect you and you can respect me and we can move on. But people
but
getting
we
caught up
can't
in
move
the
on
distinctions.
together. We can't move on together if we don't see things the same way. And that's what
We
I'm
do it
trying to
every
say.
day.
Like
We do
that's
it
like,
every day.
yeah, and that's why we don't get nowhere. That's why we don't get nowhere.
No,
Look,
no, no. We do it every day with the
in
proper
order to have
motivation.
In order to have unity, there has to be an agreement on a common direction or a common cause. If we don't agree on the common cause and the common direction, ain't gonna be no unity, because you're gonna be over here moving in this direction while we trying to move in this direction. And
But
you
if
are
that's your
convinced,
distinction, if
huh?
that is your criteria, then in this case, I think that African Americans, and I say people of color, I think that we can accept each other in our uniquenesses. I think that we can even disagree and have disagreements, but still understand that we're all on the same team. It's a mentality shift. I don't have to diminish you, and you don't have to diminish me. We can both shine. Your culture is just as important as my culture is.
But I
That
don't
is
think it's
the attitude we got to adopt. But
but I don't think it's
everybody's selfish.
diminishment. I don't think it's diminishment of the uniqueness. Like, I don't think that that's where the battle is. The battle is not that you're from Africa and or descendants of Africans, or we are black people here in America. I don't think that's the difference. I think the difference is here. The difference is in thought. The difference is in ideology and approach. And that's where the difference is. How you were raised, what you look like comes in, because all of that stuff shapes how we think and how we see the world. And so if you are not a black American, let's just say if you're coming over to America from Africa, you have no frame of reference for the black experience here in America. It's not your fault. It's just a matter of where you come from. So when we
Okay,
start
and so
talking,
what?
so
And
when
you
we
have no
start
frame of
talking,
reference for
so
where they're coming from.
wait a minute. So when we start talking about uniquely black issues here in America, if I'm not from here and I don't have any frame of reference, it's easy for
You're
me to
wrong.
say, well, that's not my
That's not
experience.
that big of a deal.
You're
Yeah.
wrong. You are dead wrong.
Okay.
You are dead wrong, my very smart brother. You are dead wrong. Can I
I'm
tell him how he's
sorry,
wrong real
Nate. I
quick,
have to
Raven?
vehemently disagree,
Can
and
I?
I only
Well,
say that
then you're wrong
because.
too, Raven. Can I tell you both how you're wrong?
But can I tell you why we right though? Just real quick, and then you can tell us why we wrong. But just real quick,
You might want
as
to
a
save it after I say this, because after I
okay,
say this, okay.
okay,
So this is where you
but
both are wrong in the context of what we're talking about. We're talking about these diaspora wars, where you have people out there who, as a part of their influencer shtick, is purposely trying to divide the black community between African Americans. They call them foundational black Americans, which is fine. But why the animosity with other people of color? And this is where you're wrong. Every person of color on this globe has been touched by white supremacy. That is the tie that binds all of our collective backgrounds. So why are we so caught up with the petty names of, it might look different? Yours might have been colonialism, mine might have been Jim Crow. It's all the same though. So that's what we need to be focusing on and preventing that from happening in the future with our children, rather than you don't understand every detail of my experience and you don't understand that don't matter. The larger we have a shared history with people of color across the globe that they keep trying to deny because they want us to fight about our petty differences. We ain't really got no differences.
ain't nothing wrong with what you just said. I agree with everything that just came out of your mouth. But what I'm saying is, it's kind of like I can come at this two ways, and I'm gonna try to do it very concisely. I can come at it this way. It's like being half siblings with a gang of folks, which I am. Me and none of my siblings share the same two parents. We have very different upbringings because of that. We did not all grow up in the same household, and in different households, there are different rules and different ways that discipline gets doled out. The same is true for the diaspora. We all experience oppression. We all experience at some point or another being enslaved by white supremacy and being under the thumb and the wrath of white supremacy, but in different households. And so it was expressed differently, which gives us different perspectives, and we don't all agree on the same thing. I have those conversations with my siblings regularly. We were raised very I was raised under our grandma, who was very churchy, who was very strict, who was very, you not going outside with no boys. I don't want to hear none of that. We understand that at the end of the day, we still consider all our individual parenting effective, but when we have conversations about it today as we become parents, we have very different perspectives about how we should go about that. That's just the reality of it. Two, I can go about it this way. As a African American young lady who has dated both African American men who are the ancestors of enslaved, and I have dated a number of African men who are either first or second or third generation, who parents either still live in the country that they came from, or were the first to immigrate in their family, and they have been born as a product of that. Those men, the difference between those two men and the way that they approach dating, the way that they approach the world, the way that we discuss politics is completely different.
And that's
There
okay.
are similarities, but when we have conversations about black oppression in America, those two conversations, they really rarely ever look the
I
same,
understand. I
because they
understand.
coming from different perspectives. And so I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to come together with our different perspectives, find some common ground, and be able to strategize together about how to defeat white supremacy. It's just hard to do when you've spent majority of your life being raised and conditioned on the perspective that you now hold, and you are having to come and sit with somebody who has a completely different perspective, and you looking at them and they looking at you in your face. And a lot of times, and this is why this happens, but a lot of times the conversations that I've had with men, African men, when we talk about politics, when we talk about black oppression, when we talk about slavery and Jim Crow in America, they a lot of times think that black Americans complain too much, that the issues that we have, that we make issues, are trivial. Like I've actually had to like stop. And I hate to say this, but I typically don't date African men anymore, because when I have these conversations with him, it just pisses me off too much to have the conversation. A lot of them have been raised to believe that black Americans are lazy. The same white supremacist rhetoric that's been fed to them via colonialism. And I get it, that's what that is. But I'm trying to have the conversation with you to tell you that how untrue this is, and how actually all these different things were set in front of me as obstacles that make you perceive me this way. And you don't want to hear it because you're stuck in that perspective of black Americans are lazy. We don't want to work for nothing. We are uneducated. We complain about every little thing without doing anything about it. And
There's
that's
black
just
people who feel
not
that way about black people.
true.
Raven, there's black people who feel that way about black people.
Absolutely. But it's easier,
Right. And
to
so
navigate that
that's
conversation
exactly the
because we got
point.
the same shared lived experience. I just know what it is when it comes with when it is when it's with you. You have bought and sold into a different kind of coonery that, like, it's not even worth having a conversation with you. I'm not going to achieve no same ground conversation with you where we can come together and compromise and strategize. You've already checked out of the calls, so there's no talking to you. Versus, I am trying my best to collaborate with my African and Jamaican and Haitian brothers and sisters, but they're so resistant to hearing my truth that I'm having difficulty having the conversation to even get to a point of strategizing with you about how we both can beat white supremacy, because you sold into the vision of white supremacy that colonialism has given you about black Americans. That's what I'm saying. And so when it comes to this Target thing and Essence Fest, that is the view that a lot of people have. Of course you partnered with Target, because when we tell you about our issues and when we tell you about how oppression affects black Americans, you think that we're bullying you, and we're not. We're trying to give you real factual, like, information about why we do the things we do and the way that we do them, and why you see what you see about us when you get here. But you don't hear it go in one ear and out the other,
It just
because
sounds
you've
like
already made up in your mind that, I mean, we don't give a damn about if you targeting or if you're boycotting Target or not. That don't even really mean nothing to us. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and accept this sponsorship, because that's not our problem anyway.
oh,
That's
so
what
that's
it
how people are
gives.
looking at it. Oh, okay. Now we bring it back to so what do you do if you're the Essence Festival? What do you do?
To be honest, I feel like it was
I
a
think
bad
that
move. I feel like, especially when there are other places, like, people stop going to Target will tell you, oh, I go to Costco now. I bought a Costco membership. There are other retailers who could have made up the gap that Target filled for them. And it might have took a little bit more leg work. It might have took a little bit more, convincing. It might have had to you might have had to offset Essence Fest until later on in the summertime to make sure that you have penciled down the correct number of sponsors to get it done. But either way it go, it just felt like there was no consideration for what is happening in the nation at large, which is, if we all gonna be on this kumbaya diaspora unification type stuff, the entire country knows that the black community is boycotting Target right now. It was a bad move, period. They should have found other retailers who are willing
Yeah,
to meet that need, either alone or collectively.
What if the difference
yeah.
what if the difference
Here's
in the
what. Let
money
me.
from
Can I jump
Target?
in here? Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, I'm
Hey,
just gonna ask a
can I
real
jump
question.
in
Like,
real quick?
what if the
And
difference was to do it or not to do it? Like, what if the Target money was, if we don't get this money, we can't do any kind of festival at all?
Is that so bad?
well, yeah. Here's my thought on it. There are a couple of different ways that you could approach it. Like I think it's bad for black people in general, and this comes back to your point about unity and the larger thing. To sit back and say, "Oh, they shouldn't have taken Target's money," or just don't do it, right? Because the reality is, a lot of people like to go to the Essence Festival, things of that nature. I do think they did make a mistake by taking the money. And perhaps what they should have done, as Raven said, is maybe look for other retailers to fill the gap. But I also think black people have to be prepared to step up. If we are asking organizations and institutions not to take money, then we can't say, oh, don't take their money, but we're not willing to sacrifice and put a little money towards it if we think it's worth
I
happening.
agree.
I heard the LGBTQ community having this conversation during Pride Month when they're sponsors. And part of their conversation was, well, maybe people might have to pay a fee. Maybe we might have to ask people who are coming to the festival to pay like $50. Would you be willing to pay $50 and get a wristband to come in and so that we can still have it? And that's a way that we can make up that money to make support. So part of the conversation has to be, as black people, it's not just enough for us to demand of our organizations and institutions not to take money. We also got to be prepared to step up with our wallets and our support and say we willing to fill the gap, right? Yeah, go out and try to get other retailers, but in the event that you can't, if Essence is something that we feel is important to us and our community and that we want to make sure that it survives, then we got to be prepared to step up and not just call for you not to take the money, but to step up with some
Hmm.
support to help. And so I think that that's part of the conversation too, because often we sit back and we criticize and say, "Oh, they shouldn't have taken that money," but the same people that complain about that ain't willing to give $1, to help make sure that the Essence Festival continues to stay a part of it. And that's the way we got to start to look at these things. And maybe if we take that approach, more organizations will feel emboldened to say, okay, I don't need your money because our people gonna step up and they got our
And I
back.
also have to circle back to just the idea of, like, this is why the world needs creatives, because creatives are not just good at creating art. They're good at strategizing. They're good at coming up with new ways to achieve, a goal. And I think that somebody who is good at business would be able to look at this and say, okay, so for the last so and so odd years, we have used Target as a sponsor. This is typically the amount of money or sponsorship that we can expect to receive from them for their participation in their sponsorship in this event. If I want to be able to still secure this amount of funding or sponsorship or whatever the case may be, let me then look at either whether I can, or all of these things are an option. I can look at getting different retailers. I can look at also the option that Kevin suggested. I can also reach out to, how many famous black people are from New Orleans who would have probably already been coming to the fest anyway. I'm reaching out to everybody who I know has any ties to New Orleans who would be willing to make a small donation in the name of keeping Essence Fest alive this year, because as a community we've decided that Target is no longer going to be part of this event. Like, there are multiple different ways, if you use your creativity, your God-given talent, to think of things to do. We as a people are so innovative. We are so innovative. And I think that sometimes we get lazy. We drop the ball on
Yeah.
strategy because we don't want to use that same brain
Well,
power that we use every single day to create music, to contribute to society's overall culture. We sometimes don't think in terms of how we can apply that to business, how we can apply that to get into a bag, to get into some money. It ain't just about being the flyest dresser or the one who makes the best, the most catchiest song on the radio. Sometimes you got to take that creativity and inject it in other areas to get the call, to support the cause. There are plenty of creative people who should
Nathan,
be on Essence Fest team who could have
I
come up with
Nate,
different
Nathan,
ways to be creative to get that money.
Nathan,
I got a slightly.
a white woman raised $1 million. A white woman raised nearly $1 million in GoFundMe by calling a little black
The
baby
N
the N
word.
word, and she was able to relocate with $1 million. Shame on us if we can't raise the money collectively through GoFundMe as black people in this country to keep the Essence Festival alive. Shame on us if a white woman can raise $1 million off of racism and we can't raise a significant amount of money in the name of justice to keep the Essence Festival or whatever else we're doing going on. Shame on us.
You guys, I don't know. I might offend some people with this take, but if it was me, I may have strongly, yeah, I would have done this. If it was me, considering the times that we're living in, and I'm making a decision over at the Essence Festival about whether we're going to take on sponsorship, I would have taken on the sponsorship, but it would have been the price that I would have quoted them would have taken into consideration the hit and the reputation that we're dealing with. It would have been a number that I probably wouldn't have expected them to accept, and if they would accept it, I would have took it. And then we'll get more conscious next year. We got a
But
business to run,
that's easy to
but
say
I
though,
would have.
Nate, because when you make an ask like that, if for the last 5, 6, 10, 20 years, I've been giving you a pretty consistent price that is adjusted to the current market value of this
Yeah,
event, and then you come to me and try to double the
yeah,
price or
fair.
triple the price or thrice the price,
It
whatever the
might
case
be
may be,
quadrupled,
I'm also going to have
Raven. That is fair.
expectations as a business. So that means I have a bigger stake in
You
whatever it is that you got
no,
going
no,
on.
you get the same old. No Target, you get the same old level of sponsorship. We ain't doing nothing different because we are the ones we know are we're going to take a reputation hit when we take this money. Look at the times we living in. That has to be a part of the as we negotiate this. That's got to be a part of it, and that's very, 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 very. It's really invaluable, and that's why I say I would have quoted them a number that was absolutely through the roof, and they would have said, "Yeah, I'd have took it." I'm not even gonna lie to you. And if they said no, we would have negotiated down from there. And if we would have got to a point in which I felt like it was still worth a year, 2 years from now, if we're still dealing with people boycotting us or people look a reputation loss, I want to be compensated for all of that. Because you're coming to me at a very specific time in history where the Trump administration is going DEI, and you asking the Essence Festival to take you're asking a lot. You got to pay for that,
Yeah,
and if you're
absolutely.
willing to pay for it, I would take it.
I agree with that as a strategy point in terms of what you're saying. If you're going to do it, if you're going to take the money, you are coming at it. I won't necessarily say at a position of supreme leverage, but you absolutely have something that Target wants. Like this goes beyond their normal sponsorship. I think to Nathan's
Exactly.
point, because of the times that we're living in. So maybe you can try to drive up the amount because look, not only are we going to take a hit, but what you're counting on is our credibility with the audience to be able to try to broker some kind of piece that's your hope is like somehow having by being associated with this, you can shake some of the dirt off of what you got on you with the DEI stuff, right? Like that's the hope. And to Nathan's point, there's a dollar amount that's attached to that, and it should be high.
Very high.
I think for all of the reasons that Nate said. Now, I do think if you're the Essence Festival and you get that money, if you do that and you get that money, I think you can't just keep all of that money for yourself. I think some of that money, in order to help you absorb some of the bullets from taking it, has to go toward the cause. So you have to be able to take some of that extra money that you're getting from Target and not just spend it all on the Essence Festival or the one next year. You got to take some of that money back around and turn it around and use it, to challenge the enemy on it. And so I agree with you. If you're gonna take the money, that is absolutely what they should have done.
I
Yeah.
see with
Yeah. I mean, we
that,
talking big numbers.
I can again in my heart, I probably will never shop in Target again a day in my life because that's just how I'm built. I'm very stubborn in that way. But if they're going to go with Nate's strategy, I agree with what Kevin just said. There has to be some reinvestment in the community because the community itself is the one that has been harmed by the measures taken by Target. So what's not gonna happen is this whether it's black owned or not, this event is not going to benefit off of whatever monetary investment that Target is willing to put forth in order to be a sponsor, and then just keep it in you know what I'm saying? Like not ever take that, because what you're like they said, you're kind of leaning on me. You kind of using me as an emotional and social pack mule to kind of, broker peace between this community and you and yourself as a retailer. I'm most certainly going to take whatever you invest in this event that is over what is needed to get this event done, and reinvest that in the very same community that you previously offended. Which means it would, and it might not even be just a monetary thing. Now, since we're having this conversation, since we're bringing it to the table, and you're willing to pay this money, how willing are you to start the process of walking back, like act in an actual way, and not just with words, or not just with optics? How serious are you about actually walking back some of that stuff, some of those prior statements that you made? How willing are you to actually invest in this, in Essence Fest this year, in a way that shows that you actually care to make good on the screw up that you previously
Yeah.
did? Well, are you willing to partner with some of our vendors to, in order to set them up with some product
Yeah.
placement in the store? Like, that's the conversation that should be had outside of the whole money, the money part.
Right.
What are you doing in store that's going to live outside of this? That way that we both can come out of this with our reputations, either yours repaired or ours intact. You can't just come over here and throw some money at this and think we're gonna be
Right.
cool. What are you gonna do in store after this?
Yeah.
Well, no,
That's I
for
agree.
me, I would take all of the emotion out. If I was there, I'm taking it's. I would take the emotion and even the social activism out of it. This is a business. Like, you have a terrible, you have a terrible reputation with our core customer. You got to pay for that. And then you also have to compensate me for whatever I'm going to have to do in terms of spending for advertising or whatever our campaign is going to be to try to wing those people back. So I know I'm losing people by being associated with this is business. And so I don't know what that number would be. I'm sure that's exactly what they did. I wouldn't assume anything different. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's what they did. I'm sure that I would hope the Essence got paid in a way that they have never been paid before. And they just, because they've been injured. They injured themselves, entering into this agreement, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
they injured themselves because of how the approach that they took. To Raven's point, I think if they were more strategic about it, if you're going to do this, right? Like, I just think, like, sometimes I wonder, like, who's in these rooms discussing strategy. Like, when you make the decision to take the money, you got to sit there and game plan, because you know what's coming. You know the backlash that's going to be coming from folks who are going to say you sold out the cause. Now, if you don't care, then you just don't care. But if you have any kind of sensitivity to that, you got to be thinking about, like, what kind of strategy about how do I maintain my reputation and what we're doing? How do we not have the people who we rely on turn on us? Because there is no Essence Festival if Black folks turn on the Essence Festival and just, like, forget the Essence Festival because they sold us out. So you've got to protect that. You've got to protect your core constituency. So I think, just in the larger thing, let's just say, for example, that right now Black folks do got Target on the ropes with the boycott. I don't know what the financial figures are, but let's just say that is the case. To your point, Nathan, this is business. The next step is, I don't think, because they don't want to wrestle with the Trump administration, this notion of sort of thinking they're going to reinstall their DEI programs may not be practical, right? Because they're not going to go. None of these businesses want to go toe to toe with Trump. But just like they got money to give to the Essence Festival, we need to be having a conversation with Target. Okay, where else are you going to put your dollars in the Black community? Where else are you going to make investments? So whatever you were spending on DEI or whatever in your programming, let's take those dollars and some, if you want us to return to the stores, and talk about where you're going to invest that money in the Black community and with Black causes. That ain't DEI. Trump can't tell them where to donate and to put their money. They just can't. He's just telling them they're just certain business practices, as you said, in store that they can't do. But he can't tell them where to contribute their money. And that is the next level of this conversation, if it were me, that I would be having with Target, particularly if they're up against the ropes. Hey, if you want us back in your stores buying merch, we need to have a conversation about where them dollars at.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, there's a number. I'm sure that's what Essence Festival did, and it'll be interesting to see if the details come out about their deal. So I'm sure they got a lot of smart people, but that's interesting. I hadn't heard that, Raven. I'm glad you shared that. That it was like this split in
It's
terms of
all over my timeline right now, especially on
yeah,
Threads. It's
yeah.
all over my timeline. And it's such an interesting conversation because I feel like I don't have it openly enough. Like I have it online, but I don't have it in an open forum like this enough. And I think it is a conversation worth having because I do believe in the power of the diaspora. If we all truly decide that we are one people and we all have the same collective goal of trumping, pun not intended, trumping white supremacy, we gonna have to work together. There's no other option. Like we're not gonna get it done individually. We're gonna have to work together as the entire diaspora. But there are some things that need to be discussed and understood between the different brothers and sisters in the diaspora that need to happen before we can all get to that point, or maybe even simultaneously. But the conversation does need to be had.
See, this is another reason why we have to
That's
fight for
so much.
PBS. You know, PBS has a couple of documentaries about the Black Panther Party. I mean, they're hour, 2 hour long. I mean, just excellent stuff. They give you details. They got the black and whites, and then PBS has some of the best creatives. They know how to do all the best video stuff. I mean, just really, really informative because you got people out there who love the imagery of the Black Panther Party. Black Panther this, they got the t-shirts, they doing this, and don't know nothing about the history of the Black Panther Party at all. They have no idea that the Black Panther Party was working with other people of color, right? Farm workers, the same people you see that they're trying to tell us that we shouldn't be friends with is the same people that our ancestors wanted to be friends with. And I'm like, will you pick up a book, please, and read all of it? Not just the first page where Huey P. Newton, hey, looks so cool on the state walk stairs. I'm talking about all of it. Actually read what their philosophy was. It was black centered, but it was people of color centered. We have lost our way. We have lost our way.
Yeah.
You got people out there that are repping something and don't even know anything else but the surface about it.
We've lost our way, but
Yeah,
we've
but
also been
that's
misled. Like it's both. It's both. We've lost our way, but we've also been deliberately misled. I ain't learned nothing about the Panthers in high school or growing up or even having like I have a my the person who raised me is old enough to have been born before the Black Panthers and still is living to this day after the what we know as the original Black Panther Party. And I've never had those conversations with her because some of it is traumatizing and I can respect her mental state enough to not pry into that level of trauma for her. But also like it just was never a thing because after a certain point there became other issues as being black in America that kind of took the forefront. She raised children in the crack era. So having conversations with her grandchild about the Black Panther Party wasn't really on her list of priorities. And trying to raise a black child in the early 2000s was while dealing with the economic crisis and all these other things, like there were just certain things that it's like we keep continue to get beat up on. And how do you stop and take a breath and while you trying to take a breath explain to your child the prior behind beatings of like the people who came before you. It's a hard thing to fight and explain at the same time. I don't know if you ever tried to do it, but it's very hard to do.
Yeah. I tell you, both of y'all are on point. I think what maybe is underestimated is how difficult, Nathan, it is to do what you are suggesting in these days and times. And it's not difficult for you and I, but even it is to some degree. Uh, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so many competing sources of news and information out there that I think is overwhelming for a lot of people. People have a short attention span. People are trying to live life. They're struggling, trying to survive. They don't have time to sit down and read a book. Hell, a lot of them don't feel like they have the time to sit down with their kids and read a book to their kids. So you are competing in this 24/7 high octane environment against so many forces that keep you from taking the time to educate yourself. Now, I work in a career where part of my success is dependent upon reading and listening and watching and dealing with a lot of things. So I'm an outlier. Like I don't say that as to think that I'm better than anybody else. It's just that I get paid to read. I get paid to listen and watch, right? If that wasn't my job, I'd probably be just like everybody else if I'm just keeping it real. But the fact that I do get paid to do that means that there's a certain amount of my everyday that I'm educating myself constantly. That's not the reality for like a lot of people. And I recognize that. Like when I talk to people about current, like people are just some people are oblivious to current news events that you would be like, how do you not know about? Like, really? You don't know that we bombed Iran? Like you like you would it would just blow your mind, but that's not the reality where they're living. So I think we're up against that challenge, the miseducation, as Raven said, and that's where it's incumbent upon all of us that you got to take a certain amount of personal accountability to educate yourself. The school systems have gotten better than when I was in school about educating on some of these things, which is why Trump is trying to get it out of the school. But it's literally on each of us to educate ourselves and for us to educate our kids or the kids who are in the proximity of our village, because you can't count on the educational system doing it per se. We got to take personal accountability for educating ourselves and then raising our kids and teaching them that when they get to a point, they got to continue to educate themselves. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get to an information stage where we can get on the same page. Because that's the other part. If I'm working with bad information and you working with good information and you trying to have a conversation with me, think about how many conversations you have, Nathan, in your personal life with people who just got bad information, and you're trying to have a legitimate good conversation with them, but they want to keep hitting you with bad
Twice a
information
week podcast. I might podcast.
Yeah. And you get nowhere. You get nowhere. You get frustrated, and eventually you just like, you know what?
That's
It ain't
me.
even worth it.
That's when the Barbarian comes out. We go harder. We go harder to convince you.
I would
That's
even
like
say that for those of us who either get paid to do it, as I did at one point in time, and I've said this before as well. I was very open about it. The fact that I probably would not have ever become as politically articulate as I became if I never worked at Radio One doing talk radio. Like there were so many things I learned on the fly, just sitting and listening to my elders have conversations about politics, and just the stuff that was happening right here in Cincinnati that I done been here my entire life, and it was stuff that was happening in the city I knew nothing about until sitting and producing for Lincoln and Emmanuel at one point and doing my show where I had to show prep. I had to know what was going on to be able to keep up with the conversation and know how to do my job correctly. I think that for those of us who have either been blessed with the opportunity to do that or naturally have a affinity for reading and intaking information, and also with that, like Kevin, being able to regurgitate that information in a way that people can cling on to it and truly understand it, there's a responsibility that comes with that. That's a gift. Like if we want to be real about it, and I know Raven gonna be in that word, so it is what it is. I believe that that's one of the gifts that God gives us as a people. If I have been able to escape white supremacy's, insistence on your ignorance, their insistence on you not being able to grasp information that could change your life. You've been given a gift as a black person in America. And not only is it a gift for you, it's a gift for everybody around you. That's why I make it a habit of when I know about some stuff that's going on in the news, I'm calling all my friends. You heard about what happened in Iran? How they bombed? Like I'm that person in my friend group who I know if don't nobody else read or watch the news, I'm gonna do it. And so whenever I am talking to my peers, we're having those conversations. They come to me with stuff. Hey, did you hear about Trump and what he did? Yeah, I read about it, and then they share what you would consider Kevin or Nate a hard conversation. They share whatever bad take they have, and then I step up and I say, well, actually, this is what this is, and that's and like it can get frustrating if you allow it to become frustrating, but if you shift your perspective and allow it to be the gift that it is, and truly make yourself that point of reference for good information and good conversation, you're doing your part. You are using your gift the way that God intended for you to use it to help your people get up out of oppression, up out of off the thumb, get that foot off your neck of white oppression on the community. That's how you play your part. If you don't do nothing else, if you don't go to a protest, if you don't boycott, if you don't do nothing else to support the cause, just be the person who is informed and willing to inform.
Guys, that's all I got. Any last words? Anything you want to share before you roll out?
No. Follow me on Instagram. I'm doing some stuff over there. I'm doing some stuff on Facebook. Follow me there. But yeah, not really, not too much.
What's your
I'm
IG?
current on I well, it's I might change it, but for right now it is still Radio Bay Ray, RadioBaerae. And right now I'm just in the midst of capturing my life in a way that I think might be appealing to some folks. I am living life very transparently and very forthcomingly in a way that I think that God has called me to do so right now. So if you would like to keep up with me and the stuff I got going on, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Facebook and all the different places.
Cool. Cool. Will do.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
I would recommend people do that. I love what Raven is doing. I think it's very courageous. I think it's
Thank
bold,
you.
and I think a lot of folks who care about you and are interested in your life are going to follow that, and they're really going to enjoy it. I had a friend of mine who I went to college with. She was involved in a very severe automobile accident to the point where she lost her memory. Like
Mm,
she couldn't recall long portions of her life, didn't even recognize her kids or her husband at first. And she's been chronicling her return back to um, her full awareness of who she is, and has sort of just been following that. So been sort of living that journey very much out loud, and it's compelling stuff that I tell her all the time she should turn that into some kind of
yeah.
documentary or movie. I mean, she got the footage and everything out there now. So just stuff like that's real inspirational. I think people see that and can see the parts of their lives where they need to get better
Yeah.
and they need to work on things, or they may be battling with the same things that you might be battling with. And so from a spiritual sense, that's testimony,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I always tell people that the reason that we testify is not necessarily to brag on, how good God has been, or put our business out in the street, but it's so that other people can see and be inspired by or be encouraged by, you know, the living out loud to show what God can do. So hats off to you
Thank you.
on that. I'll be following, and I hope a lot of other folks will
I
too.
just want people to understand that like there is no, because this is the lot of this is the conversations that I have with people who struggle with being a believer or struggle with the faith in general. A lot of them, because they've lived such lives that they feel are so filled with these tragic moments, these traumatic things, they feel like they're at a point of no return. And my only purpose and what I'm doing right now is to show people there is no such thing as a point of no return. There's no such thing as I've gone too far, that I'm too far outside of God's grace for me to experience real healing and joy and restoration. There's no such thing. The God I serve don't work like that. He will never leave you out there to fend for yourself if you are desperate and calling for him. That's just not a thing. And I think that for especially for my peers, when I have conversations with them, a lot of them in their early to mid 30s, we spent our whole 20s kind of chasing after a specific dream or ambition, and we got to 30 and realized I'm not where I thought I was going to be. I'm not where I thought I wanted to be. As a matter of fact, the last 10, 15 years, I've been chasing a dream that I don't even have no more. How do I start over from scratch and make something of the rest of my life? Because they done said I've gone through my entire 30s believing that at 30 I was supposed to have certain things checked off my list. Economically, it's not realistic, and I have to figure it out now from scratch. And so that's all I'm doing with my current social media content and stuff. I'm just showing people there's no such thing as a no point of return. And if you are in your 30s rewriting your 20s all over again, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be messy, but you can do it if you just give yourself grace and you hold yourself accountable.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Raven. What you shared about point of no return. And I think one of the things that keeps people paralyzed is that thought. They stay stuck because they don't think that there's any coming back or there's no way to dig out of the
Yeah.
hole. You know, one story that I tell all the time is at one point in my youth, I got myself in so much financial debt that I'm like, man, there's just no
Yeah.
way. This is no way. And it just, I was just in such a bad place. Even though I was making good money as a professional, I was just horrible with it and had created a bad situation for myself that I didn't believe in my head I could get out of, until one day I humbled myself and went to somebody for help, right? Couldn't go to my family because I was too embarrassed. Pride wouldn't let me go to people that I love. So I went to somebody who I didn't know. And this individual he looked at my situation, and the first thing he said that was the most powerful thing was, he was like, it's not good. He's like, but I've seen worse. Because in my mind, my situation, it couldn't have been no worse, right?
That was the brokest you ever been in your life.
Like, oh man, this is so embarrassing. I don't want nobody to know this. It can't be nothing out there. And for him to say that one, it wasn't that bad, and two, you can get out of this if you do the things that I tell you to. So if you follow this blueprint, if you have this plan, and he was honest about what was going to be involved in that, the sacrifices and everything that was it. But if you do it, you'll get to another side and you'll never look back. And no truer words were ever spoken. Did everything this man told me to do, and I've never looked back. And I said to myself from that day forward, I've never allowed myself to get in a state where I'm in that position again, right? And so, yes, I love that, because your example might be the blueprint or the plan for somebody else to help them see, this is how I get out of whatever I'm in. And sometimes people just need to hear, like, yeah, it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Where you're at, but it's not irredeemable, right? You can pull yourself up, you can get out, you can change your life, you can be who you want to be, but here are the things that are going to be required. And if you're willing to do that, you got a whole other life on the other side.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And everybody have a good weekend. And peace and blessings to you. And we'll be back Tuesday and Friday of next week, 1 p.m. Thank you so much, Raven. Thank you so much, Kevin.